Welcome to the ATP Life, an exclusive look into the world of real estate development. I'm your host, Kadir, and today we will take you on an exciting journey through the various aspects of real estate development. We'll dive deep into the fascinating realm of real estate development, exploring topics such as entry-level construction, affordable housing initiatives, project management, financing options, and just so much more. Whether you're an aspiring developer, a seasoned professional, or simply curious about the industry, this show will provide valuable insight and practical advice to help you navigate the dynamic world of real estate development. Join me with my expert guests, Sergio Alvarez and Paneranda, as we uncover the strategies behind successful projects, learn from these industry experts, and gain a comprehensive understanding of the key factors that contribute to the thriving real estate development ventures. From evaluating potential investments and working with architects to manage construction teams and achieving sustainable development goals, we'll cover a wide range of topics that are vital to anyone interested in this exciting field. So, get ready to dive deep into the captivating world of real estate development. Al, Sergio, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Oh my goodness,
Absolutely.
What an impressive...
That was a mouthful, by the way. I'm just so surprised you got through that.
Oh no, thank you. I mean, it's impressive, you guys' career history. It seems like you really cover a lot in real estate development.
We do.
You've been doing it for a while?
I've been doing it since 1987, 88.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's been a long time.
And Al?
Only from 92.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're Al. I apologize, that's my mistake. Al, Sergio.
1992, only since 92. So
and
a
you
couple
met
of years.
and started working together in?
We've known each other for about 25, oh my God, almost 25, 30 years.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I understand you were rivals at the beginning. Is that right?
Not rivals. We like to tell that story. We were competing
Healthy
developers.
competition is
Healthy
okay.
competition.
Yes.
No, we actually came from different backgrounds. Sergio's had an amazing agency. I was a commercial real estate appraiser, and I actually started flipping houses on the side as a kind of a side business. And then I heard that the Alvarezes were like top agents to sell. So we got introduced, and I gave them a little bit of a portfolio. They turned it around really quickly, and we just kept doing it more and became great friends with Sandra and Sergio. And here we are like 25, 30 years later.
Amazing.
Off and on, we've been working together and just kept going. Now we're together even more.
Right.
That's wonderful.
And it's amazing to work with somebody that in the same field. We learn from each other so much over the years. We still practice the same way. There's no secrets to, our what we do. It's pretty standard, but we compare notes. And it's so beautiful to work with somebody that has another point of view, and it's so sharing, like Al, in the sense of giving knowledge. And that's what this show is going to be about.
I was just going to mention that. I'm like, you're both from different aspects of this industry, and I'm sure you can learn a lot from each other's different perspectives.
Yeah, very, very sweet guy. And if I had another child, I'd make him my godfather. So.
Oh, that's lovely. You always want to work with people like that, who you really feel are family.
No, he is family to us. And his kids and our kids.
That's wonderful.
It's great working together. We have a lot of fun. It's fun.
We do. And we hope to pass that message through the little time that we have here, and give some of our insights, some of our experience, some of our failures.
Oh, okay.
Right? And
yeah,
so
that's how we learn from experience.
So people can learn a little bit from us.
It's the best experience.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Let me go just a little bit further. Why did you even choose this industry? Why go into real estate development?
You want to go or me go?
Sure. So no experience necessary to start it with, right?
Okay.
So
anyone can do it.
Yeah. Pretty much. I got involved at a high school, didn't go to college, and just was out in jobs, right? Okay. Lucky for me, I landed in LA, thank my mom for that. And eventually, you try one job, you try another job, and I got into sales, insurance sales, car sales. And God bless, I found real estate.
Okay.
Back in those days, I'm 55 today, so back in those days, I think minimum wage was like $1.
Oh my Lord! I can't even
$1 an hour,
imagine.
$1.25.
In Los Angeles?
It wasn't that bad.
Oh, well, I remember gas prices not that long ago.
At one point, it was like $125, right?
My goodness.
And so when I sold my first house in real estate,
yeah,
I went nuts. You know,
You found your niche.
yeah, I thought it was an amazing. I was just telling somebody earlier today that, my first client was a family, and I sold them the house, and when I gave them the keys, the husband and the wife cried, and I cried with them.
That's pretty cool.
And
I didn't know that
just
story.
Heartwarming.
and just giving that American dream, and so I got to sell many houses off of that referral, and they just family members, and as come from a Latino background, so to Latinos, and they have a lot of families and friends.
Yeah.
So it was a great industry to be in, and it was just rewarding. It wasn't difficult in my eyes, and then you want to grow. You want to know. You sell a house. You want to know about commercial. As that was our attraction. Al's an amazing appraiser. Want to know about construction, and I'll stop there because I can keep on going.
We'll definitely dive into all of that. Al, why don't you tell us, how did you get into real estate?
So I started my first job. I graduated university. Took me a while. It was a lot of partying. But anyways, my first job right away, my first professional job was commercial real estate appraising. I was mentored under a gentleman who just did nothing but litigation. So my first 10 years of my career, I did evaluation as an expert witness. And we did extremely difficult types of properties. I got the highest designation in the commercial appraisal world.
Wow.
So I was appraising hotels, marinas, golf courses, industrial parks, subdivisions, shopping centers. And I had a very successful firm, and I started dabbling as kind of like a fun little business. It's like, oh, let's try flipping a house. And the way I was doing that, I was like, I started seeing some of these appraisals that were coming in, and I started seeing that people were buying for X amount, and later they're selling it for X amount. I'm like, oh man, what's going on here? Shit, I got to get in this game. And I did. I started dabbling into it. My first house was in Glassell Park, Mount Washington. I think we bought it for like $79,000 or something like that. It's like a little 850 square footer. And I think it was like a 2-bedroom. I made it into 3 bedrooms out of 850 square feet.
Oh my goodness.
So anyways, did well and kept doing that, kept saving a little bit more money and started flipping more houses and so forth. And that's how I met Sergio. Okay. Like I said at the beginning, one of the things that I got to say about Sergio and Sandra too is I was approached to start the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, the Los Angeles chapter, which is now one of the biggest chapters in the United States.
Correct.
And I remember going to one event, and President Clinton, ex-President Clinton, was speaking.
Oh my goodness.
But Sergio served on the board, so did Sandra. We had at that point, Sergio made a great point, was to try to put Latinos, make it easier for them to achieve the American dream and buy a house.
Yeah.
And that was the entire purpose of the chapter and the association. But we had like big hitters on our board. We had Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, Countrywide, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, just to name a few.
Oh my goodness, that is impressive.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and he helped me out with that. I was the president for 3 years, and we just kept a great relationship, and we still have those contacts.
We do,
even today.
We do.
We're still dealing.
It was an amazing experience for me. Having just come from a residential real estate, and a lot of people that are in real estate out there, sometimes you get stuck in one field, right? He was able to bring me to to meet corporate America, and they really wanted to know about what does a first-time buyer Latino need. There was disconnect. Corporate America in the late 80s, 90s had a disconnect with first-time buyers. We had a huge migration of Latinos come into LA, and they needed, they needed information on both sides.
Yeah,
right.
It's a great point you say about like a disconnect, because I remember those times, those meetings, and there's so many different types of Latinos. I mean, we're South American, Central American, Mexican. I'm Colombian. A lot of people don't know that. I don't look the part, or
right.
And we all seemed to be getting thrown into this bunch. And I just remember just getting kind of irritated at a few of these meetings. And it's like, if you really want to penetrate the market, you need to understand who we are. And that's a great point. I mean, we have completely diverse cultures, even within Colombia.
Absolutely.
Mexico too. I mean,
Correct.
it's,
Absolutely. So you really served a need that wasn't even
oh no,
being addressed.
I remember like
100%.
at one of the meetings we had. I don't know if you remember that. We had this guy who I picked up at Home Depot as a worker, day laborer.
Correct.
Great guy. And the guy just got better in his trade over the years and kept a great friend relationship. And in about 10 years or so, we had him get his first house.
Correct.
Wow.
And we had him go to one of the big events, and we, he came up and everybody, did a little speech, but it was like heartwarming. It was
That's
like,
a
I mean,
great
imagine
story.
picking up this guy at Home Depot to do work at your house, and instead creating a relationship with this guy. Him and his wife ended up buying a house in Pasadena. And so that was
That's
that was the whole
amazing.
thing was about.
Correct.
So we're going to dive deep into like how that happened and what are the steps that were required. But you said your first house you purchased in Washington?
No.
Oh, what did you say?
I didn't say that.
Oh, where was your first house purchased? The one that you decided to flip.
Oh, Mount Washington. Yeah, that was my first house I flipped.
Oh, okay.
Close enough.
Close enough.
enough.
So, but you weren't living there.
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't living. I bought my first house in Pasadena.
Oh, okay.
But my first flip, like when just kind of remodeled it and flip, was in Mount Washington, Glassell Park.
Well, so let me ask you this. Why is LA, Los Angeles, the greatest place to go into real estate development?
And there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Did you see this winter in Los Angeles?
Oh, my
it
goodness.
was insanely beautiful. I mean, the weather,
Yeah.
the economy. I mean, California has now, I think, reached like the 4th largest economy in the United States.
I believe so.
We're just a powerhouse.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
as many people like try to like rip or put it down California or Los Angeles, it's like it's a joke. I mean, people are flooding here.
Yeah.
This is millionaire capital of the entire world. People just want to be here. The weather's unbelievable. And the economy, it's just so diverse. The people are diverse. We're very eclectic is a good word.
Yeah.
I was just, I believe, Sergio, you were saying that you were born and raised here or you grew up here?
Well, I was born and raised and grew up here.
Yeah. That's,
I was born here,
Yeah.
spent 7-8 years in Mexico. It was a wonderful time in my elementary and then came back.
yeah.
But, California is not perfect. Los Angeles is not perfect, like any city.
Like
There's
any
no
other
perfect
city.
place.
Absolutely.
We have tremendous taxes, tremendous, amount of laws that then we'll probably, we'll dive into and that hurdles us or stops us from, year to year that we have to understand, so that we can overcome, development, right? But there's a big population coming constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful place, and it's wonderful. Like you, New Mexico, right?
My family's Egyptian.
Egyptian,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Went to school in New Mexico, and,
went to
California is a place that's unique,
Absolutely.
right?
It's very unique. And like you were saying, there's a constant influx of
Yeah.
people. There's
Yeah.
always people. It's a big city and a big gem that people are constantly drawn to. I feel
Yeah.
like there's always newcomers, even during the pandemic, which really surprised me. There's still people moving here.
Yeah.
It was not like the economy stopped.
Yeah.
People were buying houses and selling
Right.
houses. Things were happening.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about what should one consider before deciding to diversify their the types of project they wanna invest in. What kind of market should they be looking for? What kind of the new types of projects should be looking at?
I think when people want to diversify their portfolio, it can mean a lot of things to me. It's like, are you already, in real estate and you have a certain type of portfolio, whether it's like, are you into multifamily? Is that your niche? Do you want to branch out and go into commercial, industrial, and so forth? Or are you coming from the tech business, which some of our clients are?
Correct.
Yeah, and they know about real estate. They know real estate's, hot, especially in Los Angeles, and they're looking to diversify their portfolio in that respect, besides stocks and so forth. So I think you need to have just, first of all, the appetite. I think you have to do a lot of research and get a comfort level within yourself. Like, what am I willing to invest? What if something goes wrong? What kind of hit can I take? Those kind of things have to be measured. And I think people like Sergio and with my experience and our people that are around us, you know, it's just not us, but our friends, our consultants, and everybody that's in our world. I think that's where we kind of like nurture. You know, I think that's a good word.
Correct.
The investor. You know, we don't sell bullshit.
Okay.
You know, we want to have a comfort level with them. We want to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're risk adverse, you know, and that's really where I think we come in that respect. Yeah. Sorry, I hit the mic.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
so
fine.
Just to piggyback on that, we're developers. We you know, there's from start to finish, we got answers, and you know, in LA and
not all the answers, but we'll find them.
If we don't know the answer, we have the experts that we can lead to, right?
Absolutely.
I had a client come in today. This is the typical client, you know, where they don't know anything about development. They started construction already, and he's never done it.
Okay.
And you can just imagine what's going to happen when you do everything for the first time.
I can't even
It's
imagine
like,
how
okay,
overwhelming
you know,
it is.
you want to operate on somebody, but you never operated on somebody. It's like you got to go to school.
Absolutely.
So I advise, you know, that's our perfect. That's who we help a lot,
Okay.
right? We people. That's one aspect that they want to do a development. We're more involved in new construction today.
Okay.
But we also have the clients that call us that are complete experts. I mean, multimillionaires that they just need an answer on something. And that's where, you know, that's where we can support them. A little bit about, you know, it's like I said, our backgrounds, you know, had a real estate office. We had 100 agents, you know,
Wow.
we done over hundreds of transactions a month, you know, every month for many, many years. But one of the things that we specialize in, our clients were developers mainly. Most of my clients were developers. Yes, we sold houses to, you know, buyers, but my clientele was developers. Most developers don't have the answer. They have the money. And so they invest. So they need, you know, then all of a sudden they'll call me and say, Sergio, I need a piece of property.
Right.
Okay, sure. Sergio, sell the property. Sure. Sergio, do you have a contractor for me? Sergio, I'm stuck at the city on this, inspector. And so since I was working with dozens and dozens of developers, so if I don't have the answer from him, I would find it from another person and connect the dots and support that way.
That's a great point, because I get calls from Sergio all the time. It's like, hey buddy, I need an answer. What do you think of this? An opinion, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's like I had, you know, I'm working out there flipping houses and so forth. Tell me, Sergio, about the market, what's going on, blah, blah. So that's how it just starts.
So, but you were saying that you work with professionals, but also you don't necessarily have to have a knowledge on this at all to get started.
You don't. You don't. You have to have a need, right? Okay. Why do you want to do this, right?
Okay. And a lot of research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the research. It's like I just don't want people to just like to jump in on something that's kind of like over their head. I just remember, like, quick story, but I remember buying a property from a school teacher. It was a gentleman, in his first development, got in his head that, you know, he was going to be a developer, blah, blah, blah. And he decides and goes and buys a house, or not a house, a lot in Hillside in Mount Washington. And that's his first development, which is like one of the most difficult areas to work in.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, he chose a hillside, which is insane. Make a long story short, he went belly up, and we were able to dig him out of it. But that's the kind of thing. It's like he just dove in kind of blind in a way.
So you educate your clients about what to expect.
We tell a lot of people, don't do this way.
Don't do this for the first time.
Diverge this way.
Absolutely.
So a common question that comes to me and to Al, it's like, what do I need to do to build? I got the hillside property. Let's go back to Mount Washington, one of the most difficult mountains in LA. And there's plenty.
Okay.
So on hillside, there's certain things that there's nobody going to be able to tell you unless you do a complete study, a soils report, a topograph, slope analysis. Those are thousands of dollars.
Right.
Just to find out.
Surveys.
Yeah.
Just to find out if the city will accept your application.
Wow.
And then at that point, you're gonna, because people say, well, how many square feet can I build? Not until you have those $7,000 of expenses, then you get 100%.
That makes sense.
And so people think they can do a hillside, get in a hillside, they buy a lot, it looks good, I can develop it, right?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, for some reason, you could only build a 1,800 square foot home.
Right.
But they wanted a 3,000 square foot home, now you can't.
Wow.
So
fascinating.
it's almost on hillside. It's something that you have to spend the money to understand what you're going to build.
Okay.
That's on hillside, right? We'll have more tips on other stuff, but
Okay, yeah,
it all kind of
we'll
goes
get
into
it.
that.
That's definitely a specialty.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I keep hearing this word around, acquisition. Acquisition in real estate seems like a very common word. I don't even know what that is. Can you explain to me what acquisition is?
So acquisition is it's a specialty within our industry.
Okay.
That individual would specialize in identifying the right product for whoever the destined buyer is. So we look for apartment buildings. There are some people that look for gas stations.
Okay.
Some people that look for hotels.
Oh.
So that individual headhunts that product for you. Right,
see.
it's almost like a headhunter,
Okay,
right? In the acting world, or right.
But for your particular
your particular need.
Okay,
So what is it you want? You want warehouses? Do you want to flip a house? Do you want a piece of land that you would that you can develop 20 units?
Do you want to repurpose a building?
And so different developers have different
different needs. Different needs and appetites.
Interesting.
And they're usually realtors that have the experience to constantly be researching.
Right.
And so, that's a group of realtors that any developer needs to make, relationships with. So if you're brand new in the business, that's probably the 101 thing you need to do. Find 2 or 3 good guys that will feed you business, and so you could acquire them.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how developers can identify and analyze comparable properties during the acquisition process.
So when you're looking for types of properties and you're looking to, you said the word comparables. So there's different sources out there.
Okay.
First one is brokers. Brokers can guide you into kind of the market of where price per square foot should be. But, if you want to kind of just start doing your own research, there's amazing products out there right now. We have CoStar, we have the MLS, people get on Zillow and so forth, LoopNet. So these are all just like programs that are out there that you can start doing a little bit of research yourself. With the internet, man, it wasn't like when Sergio and I were in it. It's like, it's amazing like what you can do on the internet now versus when we had to really, really go after it and do all sorts of different ways to find out the information.
So when we started real estate, there was a book that came out for comparables. So a month later, after a transaction. Yeah. So we wouldn't know what Santa Clarita was doing opposed to Pasadena. We would be experts in our own field, right? And we keep track of things. But to understand what's going on in San Diego, you were a month away. So technology has fingertips, right?
So it's helped your industry. It's not taken away from your expertise.
No, it made it it made it so much easier.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I remember if I was doing significant research on commercial buildings, like if I was appraising a hotel, let's say in Las Vegas or something. Yeah. The research I would have to do is, have to go there, have to go to the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, you have to do so much physical research on stuff like that, where now it's at your fingertips.
So
especially when it comes to the economy and the local economy, the macro economy, and so forth.
So obviously, with the show and what we're doing today, we'll put some steps on our website, hopefully down the line that people can actually follow. So we want to be an education platform.
Wonderful.
For the industry. And it's something, it doesn't take Einstein to figure it out, especially with today's information channel. There's, if you YouTube, there's tons of places you can get a general idea. But the one thing I always, you probably throughout the show, I'll probably be, enforce, just reiterating more and more is team up with somebody that's done this before.
Right.
Right. Whether you open up a taco stand or fine restaurant, you're doing it for the first time, if you're going to be a developer.
Don't be a lone wolf, man.
Man.
So we're talking on the way over here is like an example of if you want to be a developer.
Yes.
Right. We kind of put an example as you want to buy a football team.
Okay.
Right. So you have the money to buy the football team. You're a developer.
Okay.
Are you going to be the quarterback? Are you going to be the coach?
No.
You hire people for that.
Right.
So hire people for that. If you have the money and if you're truly serious, it's a business.
Right.
People don't treat real estate as a business. I would say 90% of all individuals that get into real estate, they think they're going to make some money and not treat it as a business.
Interesting.
I really believe that, and I can be wrong. You get into real estate with a license and then you go in and invest no money, right?
Well, that's a great point, Sergio. It's like it's so romantic. You see these shows on flipping houses and this and that, and I mean, I sometimes come home and my wife's watching. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to watch that. It's like it drives me nuts, but it's kind of fantasized, through TV, like flip this and flip that, and so forth. And a lot of that is like so much nonsense. There's a lot of there's a lot of risk. And people just go in there thinking that they can do this and they get burned. Right. And I think that's what Sergio's saying is like, you really need to have guidance, or align yourself with somebody that's been doing it for a while and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you can't just, go in and it's like, oh, I'm going to have a dream home and I'm going to pick my dream location and just do it. It really sounds like you need people to find the right spot that fits your need and have experts that know that specific niche. Like there is a lot of people that have to be on your team.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. If you're a developer, you need to create a business plan and team up with people that have been doing it.
Right.
And that would probably be one of my best advices throughout the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And whatever business you get into.
Yeah. The football team was a great analogy. That it makes so much sense.
And,
you remembered that story. That was good.
I did remember. I did.
You rehearsed it in the car before getting here.
I was like, hey,
That's
man.
good. I like it.
No, stay with that one. That's a good one.
It is a good one. Okay, well, tell me what factors should be taken into account when determining property values and investment potential? I mean, is that more your field, would you say?
So property values, I mean, it's everything, right? So it depends, again, on what markets you're choosing and so forth. Look, when it comes to real estate, everything is location. I mean, it's as corny as it sounds, it's always location.
Right. I remember always hearing that.
Yeah. And so, I advise people to really go into markets that are, first of all, there's a lot of people, that there's actually population. I just remember like going in, people are trying to do things out where there's a lot of land. And you go out to these areas like out in the desert and so forth, and land is pretty much endless. So your appreciation isn't going to be there. Places like, Pasadena, let's just take Los Angeles and the neighboring cities, Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, areas like that, Santa Monica and so forth. These areas that are just, they really don't depreciate no matter what over time.
Wow.
I can't tell you how many times like people have come to me and say, you know what, I'm thinking of buying a house, but there's no way. I'm going to wait because I'm thinking the market's going to do this and whatever. Hey, dude, if you got the money, buy it. Buy it now.
Can't go wrong.
And I can't tell you how many times they've regretted it. And they're thinking that, the market's going to go bad in Los Angeles or whatever, and it never does. No. It just, if anything, it has a little bit of a hiccup, but that's it. I mean, the appreciation here, it's always going to be here, and it's just gotten, better and better.
Other than 2006, I mean, you can go back 50 years, and it wasn't that, and everything recovered. I went to a seminar a long time ago, and plenty of speakers were there nationwide. And the public was asking, where is the next best place? Where should we invest? And these are guys that invest all over the world and all over the country. Their answer consistently was, you guys are experts here. You guys are better than us here. Pick a spot. Pick a location and become an expert there. Right. You can't go wrong. You need to understand your business. We decided to be in the city of LA. A lot of people don't like the city of LA because it's they always year to day to day, always new rules, new things, but we embrace it. Yeah. There's the other side. It's a growing city, constantly moving, constantly with the need of housing. And that's what we've considered experts. He lives in Pasadena, I live in Glendale, and we don't develop there. They have other laws, other ways of working. We became experts in the city of LA. There's a lot we know and a lot of partners that we have, a lot of land consultants, architects, expediters, appraisers, realtors, and we focus in that community. It's a massive community.
Absolutely.
And I think there's no need for us to go other places. People are always asking, well, Sergio, why don't you do this in what you do in Texas? And it's like, there's enough here.
Right.
You know?
Well, and it sounds like, if I wanted to go into this, I would want someone who is an expert in this location and not just
Absolutely.
and not be so spread so thin. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do anywhere in the country. But clearly just from city to city, from Pasadena to Glendale to Burbank, it's different laws, different rules, different things apply.
Absolutely. Those are different cities. I mean, Pasadena is a great city and so forth, but it's got its codes and so forth, as does Burbank, as does Glendale.
Yes.
Then you go into the city of Los Angeles, it's a whole other world. And you got Santa Monica. These are all different cities that have their regulations, have their codes and so forth. And you really need to be really dialed into what they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, so tell me a little bit about what is the process of real estate investment, as far as identifying opportunities or, to all the way to realizing returns.
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing is, as an investor, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, what's my appetite? What am I willing to do? Do I want to just, do I want to be a joint venture do I want to come into a joint venture with somebody, a syndication, where I'm putting in a lot of money and I want a big return. Let's partner up. Let's go 50-50, 60-40, whatever that might look like. Mm-hmm. So that usually entails a much bigger risk.
Okay.
It's a lot more money and so forth. And that person can be involved or not involved. Wherever the investor is, they choose to be kind of a silent partner and so forth. Another way of doing it is I have this certain amount of money and I see what you guys are doing and so forth. I want to invest, but I don't want to be investing that much more. I don't want to be so, risk, takes on so much risk. I'm looking for a really good return on my money. So in that instance, you can put the money in, and we put it in different projects for you. And then when that project sells or it gets refinanced out, then you get a return on it, a very good interest rate return. Mm-hmm. So there's all sorts of different ways to do it. But I think as an investor, you kind of got to ask yourself, what am I looking for? What is my appetite? What am I willing to risk?
Mm-hmm. And what are the goals? Are you doing it for tax shelter?
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing it for passive income down the line? Actors.
Am I looking to increase my portfolio that I have?
Right.
I want to hand it down, and I want to keep it. I don't want to sell it. I want to hand it down to my kids.
Right. Mm-hmm. So people come to us because we know the steps, right?
Yes.
Having the appraisal background, we can tell you what the end product is. Mm-hmm. Having construction background, we have our own construction company now. We founded it a few years back. So we have the hard cost, what it will cost you. Mm-hmm. So if you know what it's valued at, and then the construction, you know what to buy.
Right.
Right? And so am I overpaying? Well, you know that because you know what the end factor is.
Okay.
So you have to have the answers, right?
Right.
And most people call it feasibility report. That's why people come to us.
Okay.
Because we have every step.
Yes.
And that's why you need to hire somebody. In whatever city you're at, you need to understand, what you're doing. And I'll say a story here. We do construction, like I said. A lady was referred to us, and she's an attorney, by the way.
Okay.
And she's a savvy girl. She went, her, comes from money. So money's no problem with them. Mm-hmm. She went to an architect and said, look, I have this piece of land that my dad wants to improve. What can I do? He said 17 units. Perfect.
Okay.
So she spent $250,000 in design. She came to me with the plans approved after 2 years because that's what it takes. She said, Sergio, can you build this? And I said, yeah, no problem. Let me give you construction cost to it because I need it to go get a loan. Short version is this building was going to cost 17 units. Okay. 4 stories. It was going to cost her $4 million to build.
Okay.
It was worth $5 million.
Okay.
So after financing and putting it together, she was going to lose money.
Wow.
I go, why did you do this?
Yeah.
Ready? Architect says you can build 17 units. That's it. So she went for the max.
Wow.
She didn't look at the financial side.
Oh, interesting.
Key thing here, guys, multi-unit are valued at income. What it's worth, what the income comes in, it's what it's valued at.
Okay.
You can't compare, that building across the street sold for, $10 million. Mine's going to be, it's how much income. That can be the raggedy building across the street and your income is less and you're brand new, you're still worth less.
Right.
Right? She didn't get that. So So it's like, okay, sure, if you want to lose money, build it.
Yeah.
Or redesign it. And we looked at it, but she had to redesign it down to 7 units.
Wow.
And at that point, it was going to be worth $3.7 million, and she built it for 1.5.
Huge difference.
Right? And a nice cash flow.
Not doing your feasibility report.
Absolutely.
Right. That's an example.
You've talked a lot about what investors are looking for. Tell me a little bit about what you look for in an investor who comes to you.
Don't be an asshole.
Good advice all around.
We had an interview today.
No, seriously, personalities, it's a big deal.
Oh, boy.
I mean, we honestly, that's like one of the biggest things is we need to work with you. And if you don't have the personality and so forth, I mean, it's not worth it. We just don't get involved. Okay. I think the personality thing, you have to be risk, you need to know that real estate is risky in a way.
It is a risk.
And, and just be open, Yeah.
Today I had a young kid coming around today, and he had started his house already, and he's not in the right direction. Contractors are not doing what they're supposed to do.
Oh boy.
He's not understanding why they're failing inspections. And so, the one thing, we're looking and somebody's trying to help him find out their need. He came to me with the need that he's like his building is not going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I wish he would have came to me before that, right? Because I don't even know right now at this point if this building is going to be worth.
Oh my goodness.
The money he wants it to be worth. Because hillside building is not cheap.
Sure.
Hillside building it's very, very expensive.
We'll get into that for sure.
And so. We really, when we talk to people or people come to us, it's because there's a certain need that they have. And it can just be a simple question. Sergio, my architect is doing this. What do you think? We'll talk to another architect. I'll refer you another person.
Okay, yeah.
It can be as simple as that. And there's people that we're perfect for somebody that wants to, have a few. I'll give you another example of a perfect client of mine. He sold his business for $18 million. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to be in that business anymore. He took some time off and he said, you know what? I want to build some apartment buildings. That's what I want to do. And he had no clue. But he took the right steps. He became the owner of a football team. He hired me as a quarterback. And then we hired a running back and everybody else. We made a team.
Right.
And he kept it that way. And to this point, that's the way he runs his business. But he comes with a lot of experience from the business world. He knew he wasn't the quarterback. He knew he wasn't the running back.
Yes.
And he knew he wasn't a coach.
He got the experts that needed the job to be done.
And that's what I would advise everybody. I know it's not cheap, but it's the right way of doing it. And you learn so much more that way.
And in the long run, you're going to lose less money, right? Because like that person you were telling the story about, it sounds like, his developers kept not passing inspection. He's already in so deep, right? He's already invested so much. Yeah. He can't just back out like, okay, forget it. Yeah. You got to keep moving forward.
One of the factors is time in real estate is money.
Yeah.
You got to move quick, keep it on pace. Efficient. Talk about cash flows a little later, but absolutely.
Yeah. Having the right contractors, having the right team, just speeds the process through where I've seen people stuck 5 years.
Oof. Now, you guys, everyone has heard this before, location, location, location. Now tell me some things you consider. What do you consider about when you're looking at locations?
Okay, so great question. So one of the things I look for when I invest or I have my investors is we look for places that are eclectic, and we also go deep into the demographics of the area to see where the income levels are and so forth. So areas that can support jobs and the rents and so forth.
Right. To Al's point, we're also in California, which is, an amazing state, in all. I hear there's about 40 million people here in California. I think Canada, there's more population here in California than there is in Canada. Wow. The world itself comes here. We're lucky to live in LA, downtown, Echo Park, community like that. It's just amazing. I meet people every day from all over the world. Yeah. Why? The weather. We got high taxes. But every state has high taxes. We got traffic. Yeah, there's a lot of traffic everywhere else too. But the real estate here is trackable. Mm-hmm. there's consistency for 50, 100 years here. And if, you got the Irvine Company. I mean, look at them. They're monsters in real estate, but they've been here 100 years plus. But you just can't go wrong in California, and the world wants to come here. So we're very lucky to be in this field. And we're very lucky to be Californians.
Yeah.
For whatever the reason people brought, our parents or our destiny brought you here.
It's kind of interesting, like what you're talking about being in Los Angeles in particular. I mean, some of the highest real estate right now, the trendiest areas were areas that in the 80s and 70s were just gang infested. Yeah. I mean, Glassell Park right now, that my first flip was in Glassell Park, just gang ridden. Homes are selling there at $2 million. I remember we first sold the first house that went over $1.3 million in Glassell Park, and then it just broke that ceiling. Glassell Park is now super hot. Eagle Rock was not a great neighborhood, and so these areas that were like ghettos, man. I mean, not ghettos, but I mean really just bad areas. Echo Park was a really tough area. These are some of the hottest real estate. And not only that, but like most appreciating in rental income are areas like Echo Park and so forth.
Well, to your point, Glassell Park, right? We just went to, I don't know if I can give a commercial to a great restaurant, Barra Santos. It's an amazing restaurant in Glassell Park, guys. As he said, 20 years ago, it was a gang-inspected community. And today is one of the most amazing restaurants is in Glassell Park.
Wow.
Visit my friend here at Barra Santos, whenever you guys can. It's an amazing restaurant. But that's the community, coffee shops, also tortilla shops, Mexican restaurant.
Wow, okay.
It still has that tradition to it, but that's what people come to LA for. In New York, it's boroughs, and they're constantly being gentrified. Yeah. We have communities.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because we're driving around with some investors from Orange County, and I said to him, I turned around to him like, you know what, like Los Angeles has turned into boroughs in a way. Like we call them communities, but they're the Eagle Rocks, they're the Echo Parks, the Silver Lakes, the Elysian Heights. Those are all the city of Los Angeles, but they're all. What happened now is that they have their own identity. Yeah. They have their own walking, cafes that you go to, restaurants, art communities. That's the difference now, is these are self-supporting areas. Pasadena, lit it on fire with old Pasadena and so forth. That spilled over, even within the city. Like that whole stretch between old Pasadena and Lake was kind of just void. You go anywhere there, it's just it's on fire.
I would assume a lot of people watching this video today are local here from LA, and they understand what we're talking about. But to the people that haven't been in California, come to these communities we talk about. It's an experience. It really is. It really is a beautiful experience of restaurant, fine dining, art, music.
Look, Highland Park is considered unbelievable. Highland Park is considered one of the hottest bar hopping areas in all of Los Angeles.
Yes.
And I'm talking like considering also the West Side. So it's like there's this documentary I saw a couple of years ago, but it was about Los Angeles and how everybody was migrating west towards the beach.
Correct.
And what it's done now is just flipped. All of those West Siders are coming over this way now. and it's just the bohemian culture, downtown Los Angeles, what happened there and just took off and so forth. And you just want to be around it. You want to be around that urbanization. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. But I was, Sergio and I always crack up when we go to these areas. We sit there like, dude, remember when we were kids? And, we're sitting there, people are waiting like, an hour and a half to get a bagel in Silver Lake or some shit like that. It's insane.
Another commercial to Courage Bagel that they had. They don't even need the commercial. They got 300 people waiting in line for a bagel.
Oh my goodness.
And that's Silver Lake for you.
Well, speaking of value, what are the factors you consider when you consider a value and feasibility and profitability of some real estate projects?
So again, it comes back to we'll have this on our website. We'll have the steps that people can follow, but you start at the end. Start having a target, having a goal. You want to be an actor, right? I'm going to go to class, I'm going to go to school, I got to interview. There's a process, right? So if you know what the end is, like if you know what the value of this is, it's reverse engineering. You just go back, okay, if I want a 13-unit apartment or a 20-unit apartment, this is the best financial outcome for me. Then you just go backwards, and you got to get a construction cost, and now you know what to buy it at.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so
that makes sense.
fifth of the report is understanding what the future is, understanding your costs all the way through it. It's no different than doing a business plan for a restaurant, you know, a dentist's office, a law firm. I would imagine maybe a law firm's a little bit more a little different, but you know, you get you know the idea. People overcomplicate it. You know, it is a complicated world. It's a very complicated world. That's why you need to get engaged with experts, guys. You really do.
Absolutely.
And research your experts and make sure, shop around with different people. If you're doing this for the first time, and if you're doing it for 100 years like us, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but if you're doing it for a long time, I think we could also be a service and just guide you guys in the right direction in the city of LA.
Wonderful. Talk to me about the highest and best use.
Okay, so that's a term that's used a lot in real estate, HBU. So highest and best use. Sergio actually gave a great example earlier today with the lady who's the attorney, and the architect said, you know, she had a piece of land and said, okay, we're going to build 17 units here, and she was going down that road, dropped $250,000. So highest and best use is when you look at a property and you're analyzing it, and you're thinking, okay, what is the best thing that I could do here? And so what comes into mind when you are talking about highest and best use? 4 things. Is it legally permissible? Code-wise, can I build this apartment unit here? Answer, yes. Okay, you can. Okay, what's the next step? Is it physically possible to do what I want? I want X amount of units. Well, okay, you can't build that because the square footage there isn't going to make it. So physically you can or cannot. So you've taken into account legally permissible, physically possible. Can you do it, like actually do the construction on it? Or is it, are you on a landslide? Are you on a hillside? Are you near a river that's going to flood? Those are the physical aspects that come into play. Third is financial. Is it feasibly financial to do it? And that lady's, that's where Sergio cut her off, because yes, you could legally do it. Yes, you can physically do it, but financially it's a mistake. You can't do it. And then the fourth one, which really finally determines, even though it's financially feasible, then you're going to compare it to different uses, is do I want to do a microbrewery here, or do I want to do a public market here? So then you compare, like you've met the first 3, then the last one is what's the maximum that the income can bring? And then you do a comparison of what particular use you're going to actually put there. And that determines highest and best use.
So what me and Al kind of specialize is to
that was
do
pretty technical. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, that was great. It was great.
So what me and Al kind of specialize in is exactly what he said, with the path to less resistance, right? A word that's commonly used out there in the industry is by right. So you can build by right. The community can't tell you can't put a flower shop or a bar, right? It's because we specialize in exactly what he said, with the path to less resistance, right? There's people that want to rezone the community. They want to put in, it's a residential, but they want to build apartments. There's people that want to do 100-unit, 100-story buildings. And some of those guys some of those developers got more money than God. They'll go out there and figure it out. It's not easy. It's an act of God practically to change, 10-story, building over to a 100-story building.
Right.
It can be done, but we don't go down that path. We just try to stay in our lane, and we guide people within the lane. Can we advise you on the other to change rezoning or change? Yeah, we can, and there might be some benefits to it. But everything you just said, we try to pick the path to less resistance.
Another very simple example of, like, let's say highest and best use is like, okay, you're in a particular city and a particular neighborhood or so. And most of the houses there they're averaging about, 1,300 square feet to, 2,400 square feet. You're going to come in there and you're going to go, you know what, I'm going to build this 5,000 square foot home. Well, yeah, you can do it. You can maybe have the money to do it and so forth. But what you're doing is basically, there's absolutely no return. You're actually knocking yourself in the pants because you're overbuilding for the area. That's a perfect example, very simplified of highest and best use. Just because you can do it doesn't mean necessarily that's the fourth one. To maximize your return and so forth, you don't want to do that.
Well, that makes sense. Well, so tell me a little bit about, you touched on this a little bit, but how do appraisals impact the investment decisions?
I can't tell you how important it is.
The target.
That's the target.
It's everything, man.
It's your end point.
Okay.
So if you know what the end is,
Yeah.
you just reverse engineer backwards.
Okay.
So it's the first point of order when you try to, develop a property. And you can hire an appraisal if so appraisals are the most valid thing to give you an opinion. Now let me.
Well, I just want to say how important it is. Not only an investment too, is because you're going to get probably a loan on it. So the appraisal can either make you or break you, and the bank is going to insist on having an appraisal, a third party come in and actually do an appraisal on your property, no matter what it is. I think a lot of investors, there's egos. They think, my property's worth this and this and that, or I'm going to list it for this amount. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. It's like, man, don't overlist it. And egos kind of get in the way. Yeah. So you have to be very conscious of the actual appraisal, the way a bank is going to analyze it, underwrite it. And it all has to do with the appraisal.
For sure. Can I say this, Al? Can I say an appraisal is an opinion? It's not a scientific formula. An appraisal is an opinion,
Absolutely.
And it's not a scientific formula. It's not like you get a math calculator and it just goes online and gives you an appraisal. It's an opinion of that individual.
Yeah, appraisal can be very, very sophisticated on how to do it. I mean, there's if you're going to appraise the marina, it's a very complicated process and so forth. But in the end, Sergio's right. It's an opinion.
Interesting.
And so two people can have two different opinions.
And the idea
and they're both right. I'm sorry, Al.
A good appraiser is not, it should be a reflection of the market. He's a mirror of what is happening in the market. It's not really his opinion or to give I've gotten in a lot of battles with a lot of appraisers, but the true appraiser needs to be just a complete mirror of that market at that point in time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So again, for people that are doing this for the first time, don't let that opinion be the last opinion. It's an opinion.
Okay.
So get a second opinion, like a doctor, right?
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
not, right? So.
Well, talk to me about the unique differences between projects.
Okay. So
that you're seeing in the market, what are
I was going to ask you to elaborate. What is that?
Yeah.
What did you mean?
we specialize in multi-unit.
Okay.
In our communities that we just talked about, there's a need for housing.
Okay.
And we study the code on a daily basis. The code of LA is written like a law, right? And laws is subject to interpretation. So, right? I mean, that's the way law is. So attorneys come in and give their version of that sentence. So code is that way too. Code is written in a law form, law verbiage. Right. So we get to battle with the plan checkers and, stretch our boundaries within reason. And we study that on a daily basis. So there's many, many programs that are coming out statewide in California that are giving us more flexibility to build more units. And we're taking advantage of those. TOC, Transit-Oriented Community, ED1.
So these are things that you're asking about different types of projects that's going on right now. So these are some that he's touching on, like affordable housing is a big thing right now. We're doing multifamily with the new mayor, Baz. Her initiative is low affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
And so anything that is affordable housing is going to the very top of the line. It's like gets first priority over anything right now.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that because I want to ask about what are some specific challenges that you face in these changing markets that you guys are working on.
So as I said, these are new laws. So imagine a brand new law coming in. So an attorney is 10 attorneys are going to attack it different ways.
Right.
So same subject. We got a new code. We got a new law from the state, and a common new since, it came in 2006 or something like that, 2004, ADU, we call it additional dwelling unit, where you can convert your garage. And every city has a different opinion of it. It's written by the state, and the state said, we're allowing for you to add another unit to the back, and every city has a different interpretation of it.
Wow.
So on a daily basis, we study the code. And we can walk into the same city and go to 2 different rooms and 2 different planners, and these are our city authorities, and they'll give us within 10% a different story.
Wow.
But it's the way it's interpreted, right?
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what we study in a way.
Yeah, and that's important to, like, we align ourselves with very, very good expediters that know the code books in and out. They're at the city, like every day. They know the planners, they know the plan checkers, they know what they're going to ask, they know the different personalities of the plan checkers and so forth, and they're so good at that they can do the battle. Because to Sergio's point, it is sometimes an interpretation.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely.
Tell me a little bit about some of the steps that we can that you consider when undertaking a ground up project.
Yeah, so good question. I just remember my first ground up construction. You start off actually remodeling homes, and then maybe you do an addition, and then ground up construction.
So is that when you just have land?
That's when you just have
else?
land. That's when you just have land. That's the big boys.
Boy.
That's the fun part. So ground up construction, a lot of things to take in consideration.
Okay.
Soils reports, surveys, encroachments, grading. Again, it goes all the way back to planning and so forth. It gets very, very complex. That's when the real construction takes place, and there's so many facets of it. So a lot of people avoid. I mean, so many investors that we know that have been actually in the business for many, many years, never done ground up construction. Wow. They just stay away from it. Then you get into not just ground up construction, but then you get into hillsides, which I've taken on for the last 10 years. And now you're talking another. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
It's all ground up construction.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's part of it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough that if you're going to do this for the first time, team up with somebody. Team up with somebody that's done this a lot of times. I say a lot of times, 10 times plus recently. Because remember, as I keep saying, laws keep changing. Codes keep changing. Somebody that built 30 homes 30 years ago ain't the same now. It's a very, and they get really frustrated because I built this thing, no problem 10 years ago. Why it's different now?
Yeah.
That's why you got to stay in tune. So team up with somebody that's done this before.
Well, so tell me some of the practices and lessons learned, and more importantly, what are some of the pitfalls to avoid?
I'm going to touch up on that. You're just kind of rolling also into it's almost an extension of the ground up construction, because it comes to decision time. Do I take a building that is already there? Do I demo it, raise it to the ground and start over? So you got to take into the consideration the feasibility, the ups and downs of, do I take a higher risk? There's always a higher risk when you're doing ground up construction.
Right.
There's some advantages to work with a building or a house that's already there and you're not tearing it down. So those are the things that Sergio was touching on, is you have to really take into consideration the feasibility of everything that you're doing.
Right. So somebody with the life experience understands what Al just said. I'll put it in a different way. Soup, chicken soup, it has ingredients. Yeah. You got to understand what those ingredients are to make chicken soup, or whatever you're going to cook. So you better understand what these ingredients are to get to your final point.
Right.
Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
he sounds like Tommy Lasorda there.
Right? So, people just underestimate there's a process and there's a formula, an exact formula almost. City will give it to you. 375 steps.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but we have that.
Right.
We have communities like, Mount Washington, and that we have to deal with hillside ordinance. And one of my hillside ordinance planning conditions were over 300 steps that I had to do
Wow.
to make sure I get my M factor.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds overwhelming.
It does. It sounds crazy.
But it's not for somebody that's been doing it over and over again.
Right. That makes
And
sense.
it's like salt,
Yeah.
pepper,
Right.
it's common,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you got to understand the formula.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so hopefully, and dealing with somebody that's been doing it for a while.
Okay, let's talk about some different terms. We got BAS initiative with low income housing, TOC. Now, do these all fall under the same category?
No,
They're different things.
so they're,
What's-
the
explain
category. The category is multi-units.
Multi-units.
Right.
Okay.
The city of LA and the state of California want more housing,
Okay.
so they've given us benefits instead of building by right. Let's say on a piece of land. I'm just going to throw just numbers out that don't make sense, but 10,000 square foot lot. Let's say so you can build by right 20 units, right? With TOC, maybe you're able to do in the same lot. Now you're going to be able to do 40 units instead
Now,
of
what
20.
is TOC?
Transit-oriented community.
Okay.
It's you can Google it. It's online, and you can call us or look on our website. But it's one aspect that gives you the ability to create more units.
Okay.
It has part of it if you're close to a high transportation area like a metro.
Yeah, you have to have public transportation nearby.
Yeah, close. You're able to do more. The ED1, which is the Karen, one of many, Karen Bass initiatives, is low housing. So if you're able to, create a place with Section 8, let's just say, moderate to low housing income, she will give you a lot of benefits. You can create, on a 10,000 square foot lot, and don't quote me on this, but I'm just, throwing it out there, maybe 60 units, right? Remember a story from earlier today, more is not always best.
Right.
Right. So there's a final. I'm just giving an example of what the difference of that is.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, man, you got to build this thing, and building is construction is not, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So that's the big consideration. Just because you can build 60 doesn't necessarily mean
it's
that
the
you
best
should.
use.
Right.
Right. We talked about that earlier.
That makes sense. Okay, well, let's go back a little bit to something, Al, you touched base on, repurposing. What is repurposing?
Okay, so repurposing is something I love.
Yeah.
And the city loves.
Correct.
The community loves.
Right.
And what is it? It's basically taking a building, an older building, and working with that building instead of raising it to the ground, doing a whole other purpose to that building, a completely different use to it, bringing it back to life on something that it wasn't before.
Why don't you give an example of the packing house you worked on?
Okay, this is a project that's actually going on right now, and we're getting kind of close to the end. We're talking about repurposing buildings. With some partners of ours, we identified a warehouse, and it's a packing house. And these packing houses existed all over the Inland Empire. Where were these packing houses? This is where, you go back to the Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino, even Pasadena and so forth. There's just nothing but citrus, oranges, lemons, and so forth. So these warehouses were built all over the countryside where, they were farmed the citrus, and all the citrus would be harvested, brought to these packing houses where they had trains in front of them. They would get boxed and shipped. So we identified this building. It had been sitting around at Rancho Cucamonga for years and years and years, just kind of an eyesore, dilapidated, broken down, didn't know what to do with it. Great savvy partner of ours identified it. And right now, working with the city of Rancho Cucamonga, we're going to turn it into a 28,000 square foot microbrewery. That's repurposing.
Yeah.
The city loves you. The community loves you. It's much easier to do because you're working within an envelope. You're not, you're not going to be subject to, more stringent codes of leveling something, doing ground up construction.
Right.
Those are the kind of things you need to consider there. That's repurposing.
And this building was just an eyesore.
It was a complete eyesore.
It's
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be
wonderful.
it's going to be a community center, not just a microbrewery, but an event center.
Oh wow!
And it's a pride of ownership for the entire community. Right. An example of repurposing is in El Serrano, my old office. This used to be my surveyor's office that you surveyed there. he had owned that building since 1977.
Wow.
I went there to pick up some plans, and they were just happened to be like, "Hey, I'm glad you're here. We're just about to close shop, and we're going to retire." Blah blah blah. The building looked like a fortress. Like there was barbed wire everywhere. You had to go through like 2 wire mesh doors to even just get to the doorbell.
Wow.
Fenced everywhere, even on the top of the roof, because it was a bad area back in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And just an ugly, just kind of rundown office and so forth. Make a long story short, ended up buying the building for 2 buildings right next to each other for like $800,000.
Wow.
I went in there, completely repurposed the building into our office. And we made that office look totally swank. I mean, it was like Mad Men lounge.
Nice.
People would go there to our office and go, "I can't believe you work here."
Wow.
And it was just gorgeous. Sergio's been there a bunch of times. Beautiful. Gutted the whole thing. The other building next door, when I was going around with the owner, with the lady, she thought that we were going to tear the building down. And I'm like, it's in pretty bad condition. It ended up gutting that, poured a whole brand new foundation around it, and turned it into a studio. So we leased it to a gentleman, Jig Studios. He filmed out of there, turned the entire inside of the building into like little mini sets, turned the garage into like an interrogation center where, he does films and so forth. Justin, great guy, ended up buying the other office building as well, and has done extremely well. So those are examples of completely repurposing buildings. Make a long story short, I'm sorry, $800,000 turned it into a $2 million sale at the end.
Yeah,
Wow.
And we put in
incredible.
it on renovation about $185,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a great project.
Sometimes repurposing is the way to go.
It is. It is. Yes.
I love just like working with old buildings, and especially if they have a character. We did another one called Sweeten Hall, which was another dilapidated building in Rancho Cucamonga. It turned out to be built in 1926, was I think the first or second elementary school in the area.
Wow.
Completely rehabbed that. We put in a private school in the back. What is it? I forget. There's another school in the back. I forget the name of it. Mm-hmm. But again, those are kind of repurposing types of projects.
Yeah, no.
It's so interesting. Like a lot of these old buildings take on new life and new.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Their own histories almost.
Right. Throughout the nation, it's a very common process, and it's a beautiful process. You have to have the vision.
Yes.
Head Start is the name. I can't remember.
Head Start.
Head Start.
Okay.
That's cool.
That's
But yeah, no, it's another option, another process of real estate that you can get involved with.
Very cool. Okay, tell me about co-living. What is co-living?
Co-living is a new phenomenon that's hitting Los Angeles. Fascinating, because
So it's not like multi-units.
No. So there's there's live work, which is like, again, that's kind of a repurposing where you can convert older buildings, warehouses and so forth, storage facilities into actually lofts where people like they work there, they live there and so forth. They kind of a community kind of thing. And that's called live work. What, you never stop learning. I just kind of got educated, and Sergio and I did this year, on co-live space. And then we're like, what the hell is co-live? So co-live, imagine like what student housing is.
Okay.
Like a dormitory, like a dorm, except it's offered to the public. So you have like these buildings that are being built, but they have a lot of bedrooms, like 30 bedrooms. It's a duplex, but it might have 30, 32 bedrooms. And so each bedroom is leased individually, but the rents are significant. Instead of, the bedrooms are rented out at like $1,300, $1,500. And there's different companies that are doing this. There's another company that's called Haven, amazing company. They're kind of a little bit more higher end. We went to visit their place in Venice Beach. They take a bedroom and they actually put bunk beds in there. And again, they're getting like $1,100 per bed within a bedroom. Right. And it's very communal. It's very cool. I mean, it's very, community oriented. It's common kitchen, common lounge areas, and so forth. But it's a very cool vibe. A lot of young people, like for instance, if you're here from New York and you just got a job here and you don't want to, be by yourself, end up in a studio or pay for a studio or one bedroom, you go to these places and there's just nothing but, your kind of people around you, what's happening in the city. There's just an amazing vibe. They're usually like short stays, a month to about 3 months.
Okay.
But it's fascinating, and it's something that's really, really trending now in Los Angeles. It's been around in Europe, it's been around in Asia, and now it's just hitting here, and it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And when we talked about earlier, an evaluation of an apartment building is based on income. So if you can figure out a way to get creative and create more income and rent bedrooms and
beds seems
beds.
like not just a
Yeah,
room,
no,
you're just
in
literally
beds.
renting a bed.
So-
That's
I remember Sergio and I were in this little bedroom, it's like literally like imagine being on a train, have the little curtain,
wow, yeah.
and there's like 4 beds in there, and they're like, how much are you getting per bed?
it's
Wow.
called
Crazy.
It's called income.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Well, we talked a little bit about this, about flipping property. So tell me some of the essential steps and strategies involved in successfully flipping a property.
Flipping a property is kind of interesting. I think it's kind of like, again, I go back to, it's kind of like, your the first time. I think that's the best experiences for somebody is to go through and flip a house. It's great, gratification.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's romanticized in a way through TV and this and that.
Oh, there's so many shows about that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But I think, the main thing about flipping a house is do your homework, know the areas that are up and coming. Don't get into something that's over your head, or start with a big project. Do something small that you can get in and out of quickly and so forth. When you're flipping a house, it's really important to spend the money in the right places. Do I do an addition? Do I do an ADU? Do I put in a pool? No. You do the smart money. The backyard, put a deck. A deck's going to get you such a high return when you exit. Like it's part of the house. It's just going to make your backyard, the overall appreciation of your house. And it's very little to do. It's like $2,500, $5,000 to do a beautiful deck. But it adds so much compared to doing a pool. You're going to spend $70,000, $80,000 in a pool. You're never going to get that back. So you just got to be smart. Don't spend a lot of money when you're flipping a house. Be tasteful. Take the time to really do well design, to pick beautiful tile that is not expensive, to do little features that are a little bit eccentric, out of the way. Don't make your house look like it's an investment house. Like when I hate walking into a house and I go, this guy's a flipper. Why? Because it looks like crap. The design, it has done nothing personal to it. The art on it and so forth. So I think separate yourself from that. Just like the typical like these big investors that are doing this, you could just tell it's like a house that's been flipped and it's a quick investment. So just take the time to do a little bit more detail, and you're going to get a much better exit.
That's fascinating.
100%. I can't.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the interior finishes, since we were talking about flipping houses and units. What are some of the key considerations when selecting interior finishes? I know you said to be more specific and more personal.
I think the main thing is take the time. Take a little bit more time. Think about it a little bit more. Think about the paint, the colors. Think about a bigger shower. For instance, showers are a great return. People really like it. Instead of doing the bathtub thing, have a big shower with a nice bench. Pick fixtures that are not necessarily expensive. Shop at areas. Get your quartz at, that's where, we're
Right.
kind of the experts in that. We know where to get the quartz. We know where to get the faucets and so forth. Just pay attention to a lot of design. And I can't emphasize that pick a good stager. A stager can make or break, the value of the property when it comes to sell.
100%. That's
Interesting.
great advice.
He concurs.
I concur.
Once again.
I definitely do.
Can you tell me a little bit, can you give me some examples of some of the popular choices that are in the market now? Some of the tiles or colors or maybe some themes and genres?
I can tell you what I don't like.
Okay, let's start with that.
I don't like I said, it really irritates me when I walk into a property and I just see like Yeah, I can tell this guy is an investor or a flipper.
But how can you tell? Like what?
It's cold. It's cold. You could just see that, oh, you know what? The same tile I put in the kitchen, well, I got leftovers. I'm going to put it in the bathroom.
Okay.
And you can tell they're just trying to save a buck. The idea of just, going into the house and painting it just all white, including the baseboards, the doors, everything's the exact same color.
Yes.
Just paying a little bit of attention to that. Go, put an awning outside on the window. I mean, just little design details. I can't emphasize that you don't have to spend a lot of money. Just spend smartly.
That's really good advice. I like that. I think when you said it feels cold, painted a picture. Like that makes sense, especially with the whole reusing the tile.
Just kind of design wise. In particular, when you're flipping a house, you're usually working with the architect that's already there. I'm just kind of like we're talking about ground up construction, but I'm so sick of the modern look, and it's like it's so overdone.
Right.
We'll talk a little bit about architects later down the road.
Yes, we will.
But if you're working within a house, if you don't get the eye, have somebody that does. Get somebody that does have the design look to it, because it's everything.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about cash flow. What is the importance of cash flow? Excuse me. What is the importance of cash flow in real estate development projects?
I've taken the approach as, in real estate, we're independent contractors, right? We don't have a 401k set up. We don't have a retirement pension plan that's going to happen at the end. So this is your 401k.
Wow.
Investing into, as 101 developers, you want to invest into appreciation, something that you can buy today, and 10 years from now, it's worth 3-5 times the amount, right? And that's a beautiful thing, right? And if you can generate cash flow behind it, it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Right? So, Jerry Buss, Sterling, I believe, from the Clippers, they're all multi-billionaires because they bought real estate and they kept it. I have an opinion on investors. A true investor doesn't sell, right? People that want to make money and flip properties, yes, you got to do what you got to do to generate income, and it's a great way to generate income. Flip property, make $100,000, right? But then what? Then you got to give half of it back to the IRS, and you spend here, you spend there. It's part of it, right? But when you buy a cash flow property, there's plenty of tax benefits. You get the cash flow, you keep it, you maintain it, and I just can't say. I mean,
it's literally it's wealth creation
versus
like you're doing something just kind of quick.
Right.
You're what we call buying doors, and buying doors means like it's a unit and just keeps going and going. Great story about a worker, a friend of mine. It reminds me, this is when I first started flipping houses and so forth. It was worker labor. His uncle had taught him, and I hired him through construction and everything. Guy's very savvy, taught me a lot about floor plans and functionality within and so forth. Still friends with this guy. But this guy decided to go to Washington State and ended up buying his first house. $24,000. Messed up, but he knew how to fix them. Got another one. $22,000, $30,000. Make a long story short, the guy has about 12, 14 properties up there, cash flow. Guy doesn't have to work anymore. He works because he enjoys working, but he could have retired. I mean, he did kind of semi-retired, but he's been going steady for 5-10 years now, just on the cash flow. And he's still holding these properties. Income is there, and he's just sitting on it.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do is we manufacture cash flow. We look for the right property, design the right product, so at the end of the venture, it cash flows. So that's part of how I explain what we do. We manufacture cash flow.
Okay.
We as I just repeated, I just said, that's our base. That's one of our better products that we do right now.
Okay.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all. Okay, so let's talk about architects. A lot of people will go to an architect first. I have an idea. This is what I would like. From just everything that we've learned so far, is that a smart choice to go to an architect first?
Yes. I mean, Yes and no. Okay, it depends what you can design. If you can
The
design,
end goal again.
Yeah. If you can design your own personal house, yes, because you have an idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, understanding the target,
Yes.
understanding the end game is important.
Yeah.
But they're the first step, to designing. Once you have the idea, right? I would treat that no different than any other business. If you're going to go to a doctor, look at his references. If you're going to go to an attorney, look at his references. If you're going to go to a manager because you're an actor, look at his references. You have to look at his references.
Right.
They need to specialize in the product that you need. How many attorneys is there? How many attorneys specialize in different aspects?
Absolutely.
Doctors too, architects too.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when I look for an architect, one of the main things is I've got pet peeves with some architects, big time. Be creative. Just pick an architect that is willing to work with you. They can be very finicky. They can be jerks. Yeah. Avoid those guys that have big egos.
Oh.
I like architects that are creative. I'm thinking of one in particular. Gonzalo is an amazing architect.
Yes.
I like him because he's creative. He works with you. You can just tell he loves what you're doing. And you're bringing him ideas and you go back and forth. That's what you're looking for in an architect. I mean, not some guy that's just like rubber stamping everything. It's another paycheck. It's another client, and out the door. I'm going to just make this product simple and so forth. And I've seen like some horrific stuff. Like I've built houses for clients, and it's just embarrassing, the architects that they picked. They're horrific designs. They're ugly, and you could just tell they didn't put an effort into it. Yes. So a lot of it has to do with the personality. Right. Needs to be creative, needs to be willing to work with you. Another big thing too is make sure that he's able to turn the product in on time. Because a lot of architects, engineers, and so forth will just like want to take on, get the first retainer and so forth, and then they just like kind of drift off. Right. And then you're running into timelines that could really, really cripple you.
Right. Now, another thing, don't assume a contractor has all the answers. Okay. He doesn't have all the answers. You have the answers. A contractor
is different than an architect?
Did I say that? Did I say contractor?
Yeah.
I apologize. Rewind.
I was like, hold on a second. It's a whole different term here.
So don't assume an architect has all the answers. Okay. That's not his job. He's a designer. Okay. So you got to understand that you're picking a team. Okay. It's not his obligation to give you everything you want. It's not his job. And he might not even have the ability, right? The big boys know exactly what they want. The people that true developers know exactly what they want. Yeah, they can help you out with design, but a bad architect would also send you to a bad engineer. And by putting bad engineer in there, you're like he says earlier, cut and paste. Oh, let's just run through the rubber stamp, right? You want an architect that is going to work with a good engineer, but you need a good contractor to tell an engineer how to work to have the best cost evaluation. When you're building $100 million building, you can overspend by millions of dollars. Absolutely. When you're building $1 million property, you can misspend by hundreds of thousands of dollars by having the wrong architect work with the wrong engineer because you're just not doing what you're supposed to. Right. Bigger companies, even after they evaluate, even after the designs, they bring a professional to kind of overlook at them.
Oh, okay.
So they're spending money they're spending money to overlook what you already spent to see if it's the right design, it's cost effective.
Interesting, yeah.
You're designing a property to build.
Right.
It needs to be cost effective all the way through.
Yeah, you're talking what Sergio's touching on, not so much an architect, but it's called reverse engineering.
Correct.
Where again, we're just going to talk a little bit about engineering. Engineer, we don't have so much like to kind of pick on so much. Like the architect is what you see on the outside, the inside, and so forth. It's the art. Everything is based on, after it gets approved and everything is the engineer. So the structural engineer, the civil engineer, the architect is basically done. He's not really ever going to come back and see how this thing is going to be played out. When it comes to cost and construction, now you're dealing with the engineer. what I look for in engineers is I don't want an engineer that is going to over-engineer a product.
Yeah.
And that's what Sergio's touching on.
Yeah.
Is like many engineers over-engineer just to cover their ass or something like that. And it's just a waste of money.
Yeah. So a little story. When you're designing a house, it's more personal. You want, infinity pools. You want it for you. So if it costs more, it's for you, right? But when you're building, a 50 or 100 unit building, I was shocked. That there's engineers out there that have rubber stamps. Boom, boom,
Sure.
boom. They have this design. Literally, I was shocked. I'm giving you guys $250,000.
Is this the story about the New York guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a client that came to us with a set of plans, and we gave him a price. And our foundation guy went to UCLA. He was an engineer but a contractor. He asked the engineer on Zoom, saying, a very intelligent guy, his glasses are about this thick,
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Intimidating guy, smart. And he asked him, why are you doing, I'm just going to throw some words, XYZ type of foundation? He goes, it works. Cities get it approved. Where did you last get this one approved? He goes, Chicago. He goes, do you understand there's different weather in Chicago?
Yeah.
He goes, why don't you do ABC? I'm just throwing out, because it was that confusing, okay?
Right.
But people that know. He goes, well, it's going to cost more money. Okay. Well, the way you designed it, it's $10 million more.
Wow.
And the ABC would be $4 million.
Whoa.
The owners next door said, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
How much will it take to do the XYZ design? $10,000 more. How much time? 2 months. It's easy for the seller to decide the savings. But there is a rubber stamp even at that level. Wow. So you need to bring in professionals. I keep saying that over and over again, right?
It's a very important point.
At that level, I was shocked. This happened 2 years ago. I was literally shocked at that level. Somebody so intelligent out of a very high university would actually just do rubber stamps at $1 million design.
Wow.
And
so, fascinating.
You have to be careful of, who you're dealing with. The resumes come into play. And we went from building a house and designing your personal, which you still need advice. You want to keep that contractor in tune with the design. And let me tell you something about the architect side of it. It's probably the most frustrating part of construction, getting that approved through the city. And one of the things I've always felt that we as clients get in the way. Because we get in the way, or especially people that don't know what they're doing get in the way. Well, no, can you change the window this way? No, you have to know what you want to make it efficient.
Right.
So if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So we've talked about, real estate developers. We've talked about architects. We've talked about engineers. Now, what is the difference between that and, say, like a contractor and a subcontractor? Where do they play?
Well, the contractor, what's called the general contractor, is basically in charge. He's the man that takes the full-on responsibility of the actual construction. Okay, so that's one person. Okay. That person, he's not necessarily ever going to swing a hammer. I'm a general contractor. Okay. Sergio's an RMO. So we're not those guys. But if you pull the permit and you're in charge of the entire project, that's who it's going to land on. So that general contractor hires subcontractors, or he has employees under him that are actually going to build the house. The subcontractor is usually specified on one particular trade. Is it framing? Is it plumbing? Is it electrical? Is it the roofer? Those are all subcontractors. The general contractor is the person that's hiring and overseeing all these trades.
So, and how do you establish relationships between all these people as a general contractor? How important is it to maintain these relationships with these subcontractors?
God, man, it's so funny because sometimes we get into these discussions, but construction guys are like soap operas, novelas. I mean, they gossip,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, I mean, there's all sorts of shit that goes down with these guys. It's so funny to try to keep harmony among them, among these brute men. You know, it's like, this guy did that and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take responsibility. It's hilarious. I swear to God, it's so
Oh, my
funny.
goodness.
But harmony, I would say, like, first of all, empower good people, empower a good supervisor, project managers, make sure they're good leaders, that they treat the guys under them with respect. That's one thing I think Sergio and I, the way we've been ever since developing is, no matter who you are, just treat them with respect. That's all they want. Yeah. And I think it's going to come back to you in quadruple.
Right.
I've had guys where I've seen people ill manage people, yelling at them and doing this and that, and, you know, hurting the people's feelings, whatever it is. And I get it. It's a business. I've had loyalty among, you know, workers where I've had them for 10, 15, 20 years. And if they make a mistake, I'm going to call them on it. You know what? You messed up on that. And I'm sorry, but you're going to have to redo it. I'm not going to pay you for it. And they're going to do it for you. They're going to do it for you because they want to, not because they have to. And that's the big difference of being a good leader, a good manager. Yeah. And I think empowering people, also being a mentor is really big. I think Sergio and I are really big on that. Yeah, no, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to take it to our grave?
Right. Right. But also, you know, do your do you due diligence? You know, check their license, check their their insurances, make sure everything's in place.
Right.
You know, again, we keep saying the same thing. I'll put some steps on how to pick a contractor, but those are the kind of, you know, when people research us, they want to know everything about us. Right. When did I get my license? You know, what subcontractor, what type of insurance do you have? Liability insurance, workman's comp. All those things need to be in place for you to pick the right contractor. And it's no different than looking for the right doctor.
Sergio made a great point earlier today. I think you alluded to it too, is creating a team. Yeah. You always want to have that team working together and so forth. And sometimes when a new player comes in, like I said, it's kind of gossipy a little bit and so forth. There's a little resentment. Who's this guy? Am I still going to have my job? Us as managers, we always got to watch that. It's a constant thing. It's dealing, even if it's an office. I mean, you're still dealing with that personalities.
Right. Absolutely. No, you have to keep the people. And I think you're right. And we kind of touched the base on this a little bit in different, even when you were like selling your first house and that word of mouth. And that reputation, and that's because you're just working with people. They're all people, and
sometimes, like, you know, don't always go with the cheapest guy. You know, like that's where you begin to build loyalty. Is I know that this guy is a little bit, you know, more expensive, but I know he does good work, and I know that if he messes up, he's going to have my back. Right.
No, that's important. Absolutely. Okay, let's get into it. Hillside specific construction. What is the difference between hillside and flat? No, I know the difference is night and day. I get it.
Yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day.
But what are some of the unique undertakings?
Let me start with this. On hillsides, there's absolutely, in my opinion, there's no way you know what you're going to design if you don't invest money into a proper soils report, topograph, slope analysis, and surveys. If you don't make that initial investment, there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to go forward, right? You're guessing after that. Okay. On a flat lot, you can guess a little bit because especially if you check the city, and you don't need a soils report, you don't need a slope analysis. These are things you don't need, right? You don't need a hillside, a topograph, because the city says you don't need it. It's flat.
Yeah.
Right. So you can walk in the city and say, you know, here's a scope of what I want to do, and the city will tell you, yeah, you're within reason. Okay. In hillside, you walk in and without those reports, and they'll say, get out of here. Pretty much. There's no answers for you until you bring me those reports. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
So that's one big difference for all the new people.
There's so much there. I mean, they are, like you just said, they're night and day. Hillside has gotten very popular because that's the only stuff that's left in Los Angeles.
Oh, right.
You know, there really isn't too much infill, you know, properties that are just sitting around vacant lots. Yeah. So developers have gone into the hillsides, in the Mount Washington, the Hollywood Hills, and so forth, these areas. you're encountering all sorts of different things. They tend to be very environmental, risky areas, because you get the whole communities coming out, and there's like moratoriums on hillsides and so forth. So you're running into all sorts of difficulty types of things. The upside is that these homes, when you get them done, they're very expensive. They're beautiful. They have usually probably an amazing view. Sure. They're canyon views and so forth. So the demand for them is there. There are different types of communities. Hillside communities tend to be a lot more eccentric kind of communities, a lot more bohemian kind of culture, a lot more artsy than kind of like, I know there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, for sure.
We can go on forever on that one. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. There is a big difference in that aspect of it. It's going to take a lot longer. And in the city of LA that we work with, I don't know, Arkansas, it might be different, or Miami, Texas, but here
Miami's got no hills.
Here in California, you got to have your ducks in order, before you start.
Right.
Yeah. The neighborhood associations are much, much tougher in hillside communities.
Oh, interesting.
Very.
Okay. So the next questions here we've already talked about them, basically about how to build a construction team. You've basically mentioned about how important it is for them to have a license, do your homework, make sure you just don't go with the cheapest guy.
And don't try to do everything. Don't be that football owner. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. And by the way, don't be that football owner that you want to be the quarterback. You want to be the running back. Right. You want to be everything, and be the owner. Yeah. Run a team. Yeah. Right. So an interview, that's your job. And it's a business, so invest some money into it.
Absolutely. Well, and just the next thing basically says about, fostering a positive environment and collaborating with work. I mean, you've basically mentioned, we talked about that as well.
So, this is the most boring saying everybody says. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, right? We've been hearing that from my parents. Yeah. And if it's a very rewarding, industry, a very complicated industry. Mm-hmm. And there's different layers. There's different layers of it. You can build a small little apartment building, flip a house, or just be a realtor, or be an appraiser, be an escrow officer. It's a vast industry, beautiful industry. It has its up and downs, and then you can get into development. So I just can't say enough about the industry. It's a beautiful industry.
I think Al kind of mentioned something about, having a hunger, having a passion for that sort of thing. It seems it can't just be, like I don't want to say a job, because obviously it's a job, but I mean, like, you have to have a passion for it.
Yeah, I just remember, it's kind of a quick little sentimental story, but about real estate. I was in college, I was finishing it up, and I remember just first starting with my real estate. And I read this in a textbook, and it started like this, and it said, "And under all is the land," which meant like, holy shit, it's like finite. I mean, this is it.
Wow.
We don't have any more. We can't add on. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Earth is it. And so I just found that saying fascinating. And under all, no matter what it is, it will always be the land. Wow. So whether it's a 100-story building and it gets torn down, it's still the earth under that. And no matter what's happened and transpired and everything, it's still finite. This is it, Yeah. So I love that thing about real estate, that there's not, it just doesn't,
within reason, I think 90% of the population would love to own real estate. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, and it's an industry that just, it's vast. And so I invite everybody here to join the party. I mean, it's an amazing field. It's an amazing hobby for many people. For a lot of people, it is a hobby. Yeah. And God bless them. Yeah. So.
That's wonderful. Next question. Well, the next one here.
Got teary-eyed on that one.
Yeah, that was actually very beautiful. Well, that's a great sentiment. Well, let's go back to construction, organization, and management, about being a good leader. What does it take? What is most important?
I don't know. For me,
to keep
it's
smooth operations.
I think patience, tolerance. I think I've had through my years as being in upper management and being CEO and president of this or that or having a high position, just always treat somebody with respect. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
Treat your employees with respect. Don't be a patsy or anything, but be a leader, and wear it well. And good leaders make other leaders.
Mm.
Yeah. I think you're not going to be able to lead a team if you've never done it before.
Mm.
So it depends at what level, what level you want to engage in real estate. Engage with people that have done it. Team up with them. Learn the trade. People like us, right? And there's lots of people with great references. If you're new, because we seem to be talking today more to the new, the people that don't know about, what a lot of this is, right?
Right.
And so engage with somebody that can coach you, that can guide you, so you can eventually become a good leader.
That's
Okay.
That's
so
really great advice.
Makes sense.
Because at every level, someone is sort of supervising something, and it's their job to work with everyone. Like, you can't do this by yourself. You cannot invest. You cannot do real estate. You cannot appraise. You can't do any of this by yourself.
Yeah, we run a team of about 100 people.
Wow.
In what we do.
Yeah, and I've had that's a great point. I think I've had great mentors.
Yeah.
And I've been taught well.
Yeah.
You have to be receptive to learn. I mean, I'm always learning. I mean, this guy's teaching me stuff all the time.
Yeah.
We're learning. It's constant and ever-ending improvement.
Yeah. It's vice versa. Yeah.
And that has got us through. I can't say how much.
Oh, go ahead.
I can't say how much it is. When you're doing it by yourself, it's really hard. And I think in any industry, but in real estate, you're not going to be able to do much production. You're doing the accounting, you're doing, the evaluation, the showings or whatever, everything that goes with it, the interview. It's easier to run a team, then you can get involved in production, right? And then you get to the level that we're doing, we're running 100 people.
Right.
Managing 15 projects at any given time. It's not easier. It's just more supervision, and we try to apply everything we just talked about today.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we try to apply in a team of, so we're explaining today what the basics of real estate, the basic verbiage, the basic practice, but it's the same practices that we're using, managing, what we're doing today.
Absolutely. Now, we've learned a lot so far already. You guys have been so easy to talk to and
Thank you.
easy to learn from. Now, let's kind of talk about how you start all of this. Finance, money.
Okay.
What are some of the different financial options that someone, that are available for real estate construction projects?
Okay. Traditional is we typically go the regular big banks, the Banks of America, the Wells Fargos, the Chases. They tend to give you a much better interest rate. The downside of that is that heavy scrutiny and underwriting. So when you're developing those options, a lot of things is time, and you need to get things done quickly. So typically, the traditional bank doesn't work for the investor world that we're in.
Right. Not to interrupt you, but we were talking earlier about that today. The traditional banks like Chase, Bank of America, they'll lend you as much money as you need as long as you have it in the bank. So if you need $1 million, they want to see $1 million in the bank. Yeah, we'll lend you your money.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's practically that much scrutiny, right? And the people that have it, well, why not? It's called leveraging and, a lot, right? So then there's the next phase, private money. Construction loans, right?
Yeah, so
a lot more interest rate, but a lot less scrutiny.
And with private money, it's called hard money lending, and that's the term that we use.
Now, percent of that industry would only lend you with experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the experience and a track record, they say, yeah, we'll sponsor you.
Sure.
We'll give you a lot more money than a traditional bank. We'll give you. We're going to charge it a bit more rate, and it'll be faster. You probably can get these things in 2 weeks.
Right.
If you got the right presentation, but you need a track record. Again, it comes back to if you're doing this for the first time, they want you to have that track record. So they're actually preaching what we're saying right now.
Yeah.
Team up with somebody.
Yep.
Why? Right? So many, many, many banks, maybe private money lenders out there, they don't care how much money you have if you don't have the experience. Because people with a lot of money do what they want to do, not what they should do.
Right.
A lot of times, right? So a lot of private money lenders get scared off with wealthy people that have a lot of money and they're asking for these type of loans and with no experience.
Wow.
So they want experience. So
They just see problems.
they just see problems.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So, how can developers navigate the process, to secure construction? So, to get past some of the scrutiny and make sure that you are maybe not past it, but to make sure that everything is smooth and you get your final product.
I think when you're getting financing for construction, every organization that you're going to go ask for money, they're going to want to see experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Experience from your contractor,
Right.
experience from the developer. If you don't have it, then team up with somebody, they're going to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting story. Quick story. I don't want to mention names, but just recently, we had a company that approached us, and we, seemed to be seasoned, and kind of turned out they weren't. I think they came from kind of money that was private money in the sense that they had the money. So they went and got into a project and just went into this bank, not realizing that they're going to start a project and that the bank is going to take about 3 to 4 weeks to give them a draw on construction, which is devastating in construction.
Oh.
I mean, to wait that long to get draws is basically you're going to have to put out money to pay the laborers, the material, and so forth. And they didn't do their homework. They didn't do the homework of finding out how does the process work with that particular bank? How am I going to get my draws and the time manner that they're going to get them? And so they're calling us who do you use? And I'm like,
Oh, boy.
I can't believe you're going down this path. People we use, 3 days, turn around, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the relationships that we have, and the inexperience that really surprised us.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bottom line is you have to be working with somebody that has done it before. To Al's point of that relationship, when Al got that conversation and that comment, he goes, "What are you doing?
Wow.
You're in the wrong place. Let me introduce you to somebody that does the same thing in 1 or 2 days.
Wow.
Or 3 days, and this is what they do. They, I've heard of private money lenders where, if you ask for $1, they give you 75 cents only.
Right.
So if you ask for $100,000, they're only going to give 75,000. So, and the client doesn't know. It's like, oh, they didn't explain that. So it's happened to us.
Yeah.
We were there. It happened, in some cases, and that's how you live and learn.
That's how you learn. Absolutely. Now, Al, you've mentioned something about construction bank draws. Can you tell me a bit more of what that means?
Yeah, so I think we just alluded to that. Construction bank draws are when you do your schedule, like in a Gantt chart. There's different phases. Like for instance, like when you break ground, you start grading and so forth, and then you ask the bank for that particular trade. It's like, hey, I'm almost done with my grading. Give them some photographs, or they come in and do an inspection. Then you get a draw on that. So you get the construction money for that. You move on. You begin to start pouring your foundation, your cement work. Then you get a draw for that. It's crucial to keep this thing going fast and on time. And the bank wants you to get out of there as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that you do pick an institution that is they're literally become your partner.
So the bank is literally there with every step of the way. They have the schedule with you and everything.
So if they're doing it right, they become your partner. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you get the project done and sold or refinance as fast as possible.
Right.
So the construction draws are that they're beginning phases and so forth.
Okay.
But they're crucial to the overall timing of the project. They
Right.
make sure that your laborers are getting paid on time, the materials getting paid on time, your vendors and so forth. You're going to get better pricing if you're buying in bulk, et cetera, et cetera. So construction draws become very crucial to the entire project.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit about client relationship and expectations and management. Now, we talked a little bit about, setting a time and setting a schedule and everything. Now, do your clients ever come to you and be like, no, I want it in 2 months? Or like they expect the unrealistic things, and you have to sort of educate them and talk them back. Like, okay, actually, it's more involved than you realize. Just after going through this today, I've learned so much more about like what it takes to for this whole
Absolutely.
process.
Most of what we do is within our own investment, practice, our construction, but we do get referrals and we do work for them and build their houses or build their apartments. Yes, people have these expectations that things can be done in a few months. It's not that.
Yeah.
So it's about, putting something in writing, showing them the steps, guiding them through it.
Being realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, being realistic and being honest with the investor. I think, that just goes a long way. And I think it's appreciated.
100%.
I don't think anybody wants to be kind of, told what they want to hear.
Right.
Yes. Right.
So I think Sergio and I are pretty frank with the investors, and we don't mind. I mean, we don't mind doing the hand holding and so forth, because you have to create this comfort level. I mean, any investors that I ever worked with is not so much about I want to work with them. I'm never selling. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to sit with you, meet with you, and enjoy the process with you. And I think that comes from that comfort level that you can build with the person, the client.
Correct. Communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so after everything we've learned today, and after
Have we learned anything?
Oh my goodness, we have learned so much today.
I
honestly,
feel like it.
it has been so informative, and I came into this without knowing any of this stuff, and I've learned so much, and I want to say I'm interested in learning and getting involved in real estate development. What are the initial steps? What do I do?
Again, as I said earlier, identify, interview, check the references, somebody that's done this before.
Okay.
Number one.
Yeah.
Right? Different people come into the business for different reasons, right? One of them might be, I just got the money and I need to put my money to work. You be the quarterback, handle it, Sergio.
Okay. Right.
Other people say, I got the money, Sergio. I want to make this a career. I want to do what you do.
Right.
Then you're going to be by my side at 6 a.m. every day.
Wow.
Going through the process and, and we'll guide you through the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you want to learn, you're here.
Wow.
So it just depends at what level you want to engage, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's different. It takes a lot of years to go through what we've gone through.
What I tell my kids is, learn from my mistakes.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You don't have time.
That's such a great lesson.
All.
It's like, we've been at it for so long. Like I said, I've had great mentors and everything, and I've got an egg on my face, and going through some of the failures, some of the mistakes. Right. That's the almost the experience that we go through that we don't want, the client to go through.
Right.
Don't do that, man. It's but kids are going to do what they're going to do.
Exactly. And we love it. We love our business. We love mentoring. We love showing. People criticize me all the time for giving out the answers. And Sergio, why you tell them everything? It's okay. It's not about the knowledge. It's actually the practice to do it. It's not an easy task. I can tell you, give you the book. To become the doctor, you still got to go to school and practice. Even after you get out of school, you still got to go practice.
That's true.
Law and everything. So it takes a long time. Again, being new as the question, if you wanted to get involved, team up with somebody that's, that can mentor you through and you feel comfortable. And it's going to be a long journey. This is not, real estate is not something like selling tacos. Let's sell 15 tacos. It doesn't work that way. A project can take 6 months,
2 years.
To 2 years.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to build. So understand clarity of what you want. I think that's why we're doing this show, to give the people all these little boring steps.
It's not boring at all.
To
it's
somebody so that somebody can understand what they're getting into.
Absolutely.
And I probably said it 15 times a day. Just look for somebody that you can be mentored by.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Al, Sergio, thank you so much.
Is it over? What?
That's it. That was the last question. You've intrigued us all to all be involved and find a way to be a part of this huge.
No, we welcome the audience to call us up, hit us up with questions. We're there for you guys, and we're looking for great relationships.
100%.
Wonderful. So after you've heard here from Al and Sergio, and they are obviously with ATP Life. Do you have anything else to add that you'd like to add to your audience, your fans?
Closing statement, Sergio.
Closing comments.
I want to say that the show today was more meant for people that are just starting and really need more of an education of how to get started. Visit our website, atpdevelopment.com. Call us. Me and Al answer the phone quite a bit and answer a lot of questions. We're here for you guys. We'll be doing more shows. In our website, there's more education platforms. But thanks again for spending the time with us.
There you have it, folks. This was ATP Live, and their website, again, is atpdevelopment.com. Stay tuned for more shows to answer some more unique questions and dive deeper.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.